So what are some of the worship struggles that you're going to have to face in the real world of worship? Let's talk about it. Boom. Pretty good intro.
Right on.
Welcome everybody to yet another worship podcast. I'm Skylar Hoagland, director of Rockfish Worship, the worship at Rockfish Church. With me today, I have the worship coordinator of the Rockfish Anderson Creek campus, Mr. Daniel Prasley. Daniel, how you doing?
Good. How you doing today?
I am stuttering all over the place.
Yeah.
We're back here at our moon landing site, and we got lights all in our face. So
Yeah.
Here we go
Hey,
again.
let's not be controversial.
We can absolutely, we're going to have to make another podcast if we're going to talk. Today we're going to discuss the struggles of worship leading, what they didn't warn us about. There's a lot of things going into this that we were not prepared for, and now we understand and can kind of talk about sort of the struggles of what we have to face on a weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, year round, actually. So let's talk about this. First topic is navigating expectations versus reality. Now, Daniel, let me ask you a question. How'd you get interested? Let's talk about this. How did you get interested in worship leading?
Man, this is actually something that I've written many discussion boards on in college. Probably about the time I was 15, I'd done quite a few years in the Rockfish production department. Shout out to you guys. And I was watching the worship leader, which is previous to you. I was watching him on stage. I was like, I would really love to do that. And that's where it started. And so that's how I got into it, is just watching the worship team on stage and just being really inspired by it. And that's where I felt the kind of like the tug on my heart from the Lord to start worship leading. Yeah,
Dad, my dad's a pastor, Pastor Jeff, and I always grew up in church. He always, so we always had the worship team as a reference in our lives. And, earlier, at the beginning of my life, I had no real want to be a worship leader. I just knew that I was a musician and I liked music, and I was also a Christian. So when I found out that, hey, worship leader is a Christian musician, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I started listening to all these worship bands, Bethel and Elevation and all those guys, Upper Room, I love them. But when I look at the music videos, when I look at the live streams, when I see Bethel, Elevation, or any sort of mega church, well, let's put it in your perception. What do you see when you watch any music video by any big worship band or worship organization or whatever?
So definitely what comes to mind is Bethel. First, I think, wow, this is the best broadcast mix I've ever heard.
Yeah, really.
But for real, great mix.
Shout out to Bethel.
Yes. Man, definitely thinking, wow, how can I replicate that? And what I mean by that is not try to copy and paste and copy other people.
Yeah.
If anything, I think watching other worship teams and seeing what they're doing is good for inspiration.
Yes.
And seeing, all right, what is it that they're doing that could potentially work in my worship setting? And so I'm always trying to learn, if anything, and seeing what I can take away from those live streams or those music videos.
Now, when I watch the live streams and when I watch the music videos of any kind of mega church, not just Elevation, Bethel, or, the main ones, I'm talking any mega church. I see people, bouncing around, and not just on stage, but like the congregation themselves are just like really into the worship. And, that's sort of like the main focus is, wow, how are people responding to the music that's being displayed right here? And so going into the worship ministry, going into this, what we're doing right now, I had the expectation of, okay, if people aren't, raising their hands, jumping around, crying, falling on the floor, doing backflips off the stage,
throwing chairs,
then obviously we're doing something wrong. And the reality is that you can't force people to worship. You cannot force people to follow God, or you can't force people to show adoration. They have to do that by themselves. So that was sort of a reality, an expectation versus reality moment that I had.
And I think to add on to that as well, is also that other people worship differently.
Yeah.
As well. A lot of people, they tend to kind of be more reserved or a little bit more reverent because they may worship in more of a meditative state. Or other people, their expression of worship is going to be arms high and heart abandoned. Or they're going to be throwing chairs and doing backflips or something along the front row.
So what are some other challenges that you faced in your 3 years, almost 4 years of doing this? And we discussed it before, but working with volunteers is a big challenge, especially when each volunteer has their own emotions, has their own personality, trying to, dodge and weave certain aspects of that.
I think for me, and I know we're going to kind of touch on like personal and spiritual challenges. This one's a little bit more personal for me. It's trying not to get complacent with myself. And what I mean by that is trying not to get to a point where I just start going through the motions, because like most worship leaders, chances are out there, and like the both of us, we're paid. This is our job. And so it's easy to get into the rinse and repeat and just, all right, let's just do what we need to do. And we're thinking about what we're going to go have for lunch after church or what we're going to do for the rest of the day after church, is trying not to get in that mindset and trying to really come in with that heart of worship.
That's a big struggle, is getting out of your own head.
Yes.
Yeah. And not just like, thinking about, what buffet you're going to, but also like to some degree, every worship leader has an ego. You're on the stage and there's people that are, worshiping based on what you are giving. And that's not saying that they're worshiping you. You're leading them into worship. But there can be, if you're not careful, that can easily get to your head. Getting your head out of yourself and more so on the mindset of this is for God is one of the toughest things that you can do in any worship set environment. The expectation is, okay, I want everything to go perfect.
Yep.
I want everything to be as polished and neat. I want every single person to play the right note. I want all the vocalists to not go off pitch, be absolutely on tune. The reality is you're working with volunteers. Yep. You are working with humans, and we're not perfect. The only perfect human being was Jesus.
And here's the thing. I'm really glad you mentioned that. This is one that I've dealt with, and you may have dealt with this before. Let's say you're looking at Planning Center and you have a rocking team.
Shout out to Planning Center.
Yes. You're looking at your Planning Center and you're like, oh, I've got this person, people who are really solid and some of your strongest team members. And you're like, all right. And you plan your ultimate set and you're like, all right, this is going to go so well.
Praised by Elevation, Glorious by BJ Putman.
Yeah, start throwing it. Yeah, Graves into Gardens, Rattle, you name it.
All these dynamically driven
exactly.
songs.
And it doesn't go well. You have that off day and it just starts falling apart.
And how do you feel after that?
Oh, man. At that point, you're just like, everything just fell to pieces. I just failed as a leader. And then that's when you realize, okay, I put too much stock into, I don't even want to say people. I put too much stock in myself and into the physicality and not really putting my mindset so much on the Lord and relying on the Lord for this set to go well. And it's not one of those things where we're not saying, or I'm not saying, if your set flops, it's because you didn't rely on the Lord. Some days you're just going to have a really bad day.
Yeah.
You and I have had plenty of those.
Oh, man.
And we're either calling each other Sunday night and we're like, listen, the day that I just had, you know.
Or immediately after service, like, dude, I just got to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
This was not great.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. I say all that to say, it's okay if your day didn't go well. If 2 or all 3 of your services flopped, or just the one service that you lead didn't go well, it's okay.
And what I always bring it back to is, and we'll wrap up with this. Yeah. What matters the most is a couple things. 1, did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Number 2, did the worship team have a good time? And what I mean by good time is, did they have fun worshiping God? Did you have fun worshiping God? Did you enjoy worshiping
That's really
God?
good question.
And the reason we're on that stage is to lead. So the third question is, did the congregation worship? Did you offer a time to worship God? Did you create an atmosphere where God could move? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if the answer to all those is yes, good job. Doesn't matter if you played a wrong chord or someone was off pitch.
Yeah.
If you did all 3 of those, man, you're good to go. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely agree. And I was sitting here thinking, what if the answer is no? And to that, I would say it's okay as well.
Try again next time.
Yeah, try again next time. Ask yourself, because these are really good self-reevaluation moments, and a good time for what I call internal processing. Is, okay, what can I do better next time? And what can I do to potentially prevent XYZ next time?
Do you take notes?
I'll confess I don't. However, I just do a lot of internal processing, asking myself questions. If I need to take notes, I'll take notes.
Yeah.
But for myself, it's definitely, okay, what can what can we do better?
I get you. Amen, bro. Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
Good podcast. Good podcast. Let's wrap this thing up. Guys, thank you for Guys, thanks for watching this worship podcast that we still don't have a great name for. If you're on YouTube, be sure to hit the bell button, subscribe, like, all those YouTuber sayings that we're supposed to say. If you're watching this anywhere else, please share this with a worship leader. Maybe you have a friend that's at your church and you think that this would be some good information for them. Share it with them. Let's all grow together. That's all the time we have for today, guys. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.